Hello, good morning, good evening, good night, whatever time you are watching this. My name is Robert Gibson, and I am the owner of Passionate Words Editing Services. And we are our goal is to take all of the hard work away from you. So we take you from concept to completion and beyond. We are here with Omega Francis, a three-time author and from what I can see here, communications specialist and psychology, minor in psychology, MFA in creative writing. Oh, so there's a lot of stuff going on. Hi, Omega, how you doing?
Hi, Robert. I am doing great. It's a little bit hot here. I'm guessing you could feel the
Oh
temperature
yes,
too.
it's
So,
believe me, it's hot here too. I am trying not to turn on my fan because I don't want it to but so yeah, believe me, I know it's hot here as well.
yeah.
Okay, well, I tell me about who Omega is, and I mean there are three books here. There's Through Her Eyes, Beneath My Skin, and the one that caught my attention, Raw. But let's talk about this. Just give me an understanding of who you are and what got you into writing, and let's go from there.
Okay. I am an author, of course, of three self-published books. I write as well and do social media management as my day job. Um, I write most for articles mostly for UE Today. Um, I do editing, anything like that, any writing that anybody would want to commission me for. Um, Writing has always been a big part of who I am. Um, it was that thing that I used to, if I had too many things going on in my head, I would sit down and you know how it's a new thing now. I would and when people talk about journaling, and I was doing that, like way as a teenager because it does help. I found benefits to that. But um, I that was during secondary school when the literature or English lit teacher would say, we have to write a story now. I'd be excited while the rest of the I would be grueling because that's not that's not their thing. You know, so, um,
But yeah, that I would
that's
say
always
that has that we have that in common. We have that in common. The English literature stuff. That I started that when I was younger as well. I didn't want to cut you off, but I just had to say that. You said I find that when I speak to authors and stuff, a lot of them started as teenagers, and a lot of them started in English language. So we definitely can have a conversation about how we can
yeah,
make sure to boost literature in schools come for the children coming up. Yeah.
very
Um,
and yeah, and I've always been uh, a reader as well.
mhm,
You know, that was something that's always hand in hand. So um, everything that I do has some element of, and that's where I feel the most comfortable when I'm
mhm,
able to write.
mhm.
I'm not the person who likes maths. That has been in my existence. But give me anything to write or read or anything like that. That's it. You know, um, and that was I mean I did not end up doing literature for my first degree, but I did a couple courses in there, and communication studies is you know you communicate via writing. So writing is a medium of communication. So it all kind
Mhm.
of came together.
Came
And
together,
of
yeah.
course, when I saw that UE was offering the MFA in creative writing, I was like, I have to do it.
Well,
There's no question about it.
I could imagine. I could imagine. I remember when I had my straight A's in school as it related to English. I also hate math. As far as I'm concerned, math was created by the devil to just as a form of punishment.
Yes.
I don't like who does this? Who wants to? The only thing mathematical, the only thing mathematical that I actually liked, ironically enough, was the quadratic equation. Why? Because I cannot remember it off the top of my head now. Actually, that's not true. But it rolls off my tongue like a spoken word piece. It is like something about it is just plus or minus the square root of x4 minus 4ac. I don't even all over it. Whatever it is, it rolls off my tongue like a spoken word piece. That's it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. X equals plus or minus the square root of but that's it. So for me, I tell people, where math is concerned, I tell people that's one of them satanic things that was put against me. You know, the if you're religious, you hear the scriptures that say the things that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. One of those weapons was mathematics. Just saying. But 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 yeah, I mean, so I totally agree. I also feel the same way about writing. Writing for me was cathartic as a teenager. I found my way into writing similarly through third form English literature. And when I hit my first poem, when I started writing my first poem, I didn't stop, never stopped from there. And all through my teenage years, writing was, especially writing poetry, was a way of understanding my world and processing the feelings that I had. So I definitely feel you. I definitely feel you on that. Um, I am actually trying personally to get into copy editing, diversifying my my what I can offer my clients. So we definitely could you can definitely tell me a little bit about that. But I get it. Writing is integral to who you are, and I could definitely understand wanting to go into the creative. What the creative writing that you got? What benefit did you get from doing the MFA in creative writing?
Okay, I think main benefit for me when I went through that program was the feedback that we got during workshop.
Mhm.
Like out of everything else, there were all the classes you had to do whatever, but for me, it was always the feedback because prior to that, I didn't really have consistently there to say, read this, tell me how it sounds in a way that I can utilize those critiques. So
Mhm.
it's before people would read it and be like, oh, this is good, I enjoyed it. But the MSP program gave you a little bit more because everybody there you were able to dissect
Mhm.
things
Mhm.
paragraph by paragraph, chapter by chapter, characters, etc. All these different, which is something that I didn't realize I was missing, and I definitely enjoyed or benefited from that.
Mhm.
And the program itself also sort of forced me everything that all the ideas that I want into something cohesive.
Mhm.
Because prior to that, I would just I had already um the first book that was just poetry. Those are poems that I did while as a teenager,
Mhm.
and along the way I stories, random stories, etc. But now with the program, you had end of it, you were required to hand in either a full length book with 10 chapters or
Wow.
a
Okay.
book of 10 short stories. So
Mhm.
it forced you to focus where you focus your writing and where you want to focus. And that was another big benefit to me. So,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I used the story that because to enter the program, you had to send in a writing sample.
Mhm.
So the story that I used as a writing sample became, I believe, it's the first story in the book. So it's completely, it's like as different from what I sent in as a sample course because that's writing it involves.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I the subject matter of that story sort of became the backbone of all stories to kind of link everything together. So those are some of the major benefits to me for the program.
Okay. Okay. So you think that it would be beneficial for anybody to pursue maybe not necessarily an MFA, but some sort of professional um some professional something professional as it relates to writing. I remember when I told my mom I wanted to do English when I was in school, and she looked at me, she said, what do you want to do with that? Teach? You know, and that kind of that kind of deflated the feeling
Yeah.
because I mean, granted I do a lot of teaching now in stuff that I do, and but you know, I it feels as though writing um is looked down on unless you're a journalist. You know, writing as a profession seems to be looked down on by people, and it make you feel as though you can't. You know, the only thing you can do is teach. But like, I have now transitioned away from working for government, and for the last 4 years, I've been working for myself. So it's not just I've used my writing is now sustaining me, which is one of the things I wanted to do from a long time for a long time. So I mean, I don't like the fact that people sort of cry down writing because people like we can expand from writing and include all of artistry. What happened in the pandemic?
Mhm.
Who did they turn to when they couldn't go outside? They turned to the creatives, you know. So
This is true. I've realized. I mean, what you would talk about, I have experience where people would talk about, well, the only options if do a degree in literature is to teach. That was just it, to be an English teacher. That was just it. And pursuing writing in any way is not something that you do full time. And when you really look at it, these are the same people who don't realize that a lot of the entertainment that they consume, the backbone for writers.
exactly,
Because if a writer doesn't write a script, a movie doesn't happen.
exactly,
You know,
exactly.
series can't come up written out of thin air if somebody doesn't write a script for it, if somebody
Mhm.
doesn't create the books that they read, all different things. And even something as maybe they would see as minuscule as a office memo or uh, report
Mhm.
at the end of a fiscal year, things like that. Need some form of writing skill,
Exactly. Yep.
and I've experienced where people to think that writing in and of itself, all forms is just easy. I could do that. Anybody could do that. You know. So they don't think that you would need any kind of training in it, or anybody could have any kind of training in it or be an expert in their. So I believe going back to the first part of your statement, there is a benefit doing some sort of training
Mhm.
if you want to be a writer, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary.
Mhm.
But I would say that as the community that you can develop by just doing something as let's say workshops, writing workshop, things like that. Those are pretty casual, but those are very, very beneficial to somebody who wants to undertake writing. So they don't necessarily have to go and do a degree or
Mhm.
a formal training program. But
Right.
there's always benefits to these things, creating that community, and getting feedback from people who are in
In the
community
same field,
itself.
in the same field. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
so much better. It's so much better to hear this is good, but I would have done this to make it better. I totally understand what you mean. When I was growing up, when I was writing my poems, and like I was writing poetry at in teen as in secondary school and in college, I would give my poems to people and they'd be freaking out. They'd be like, "Oh, this is so good." I'm like, "I don't want to hear that. Tell me what's wrong with it so that I can fix it." And they're like,
Yes. Yes.
I don't want to hear it's good. I know it's good. Tell me what and I could not get anybody in my age group to explain to me what, because they're just looking at it. Oh, this is so good. I'm like, yes, I know.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be patting myself on the back, but yes, I know that's not what I want. And I found my own, I found a writers collective here in Barbados, the Barbados Writers Collective, Voices Barbados Writers Collective, when that used to meet every, it's now defunct, but it used to meet every end of month at the museum, and that's how I forged some really lifelong connections. One of my mentors was the first person to give me a feature at that she was the coordinator, and she put me on stage at 19, I think it was. I was That was the first time I was ever featured to show my work and stuff to others. So it gave me a chance to hone my skill in terms of speaking, in terms of performing, and of course the critiques coming from all of these things. So uh, I sort of jump ahead of myself, though. We were supposed to be talking about these books. So let's reverse a little bit and tell me about these three books. Through Her Eyes, a collection of stories, Beneath My Skin, collection of poetry, and Raw, the erotic collection. Yeah, tell me a little bit about these books.
Okay. Well, Beneath is the first collection of poetry.
Mm.
Said here that those are the poems that I wrote for some time, every
Uh,
something, uh, anything that I was going through or anything that just sparks some inspiration, I'd write a poem
mhm,
and realize that I just had a lot of them. And I said, you know what, why not put them together? I actually, like, right before I can't even remember the writers group. It was an online writers group, and I had made a friend in all the way in Zimbabwe, and we used to kind of go back and forth with sharing writing and stuff like that. And that was when I was doing mainly, and also was like supportive of that as well, doing like, putting them together. And I did that and discovered Amazon and decided, you know what, let me just do that. Let me just
mhm,
self-publish this. And the second one is Through Her Eyes. That actually is the result of the MFA.
mhm,
So
mhm,
that's a collection of 10 stories. Those stories, uh, all of them have a protagonist, and it's really stories that investigate some difficult subject matter
mhm,
that
mhm,
a lot of people would not, they would not really want to discuss, but I realize that there are things that need to be discussed. Even though this is a work of fiction, a lot of the stories are inspired by, let's say news articles, things I've read in the past, so people have just had a conversation or anything like that,
mhm,
and using those little nuggets to create these stories. And the significant thing about that is that these stories, I should say, is that the women, they don't just die, figuratively or literally.
mhm,
Um, Even though in one particular that she does not, she ascends,
mhm, mhm,
not to win the whole thing, but it's usually it's done on their own terms.
mhm,
They usually escape whatever the battle they to evolve and transcend whatever issue that they have,
mhm,
usually with their own internal strength, and the idea was that even though these stories are centered around difficult topics, is that our inner strength, with the strength of the community, and stars, you can transcend all these differences. But we do need a support system.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the final one, raw, is my, and I just say that to somebody recently, individual, sort of my experiment into erotica. So as I said, I read, used to be a really, really big time reader. And after a while, doing masters, you're so focused on everything, stuff like that, reading for pleasure kind of dies down. And
yes.
And I got a Kindle, shiny thing, and that introduced me to different genres, easily accessible genres of stories, books, all this sort of thing. And I realized that people were writing about this, and they did not fit the mold of Sandun. Simple, that kind of, it has to be a romancy type of that thing. Which is, for me, that's not my thing. Rom-coms and all that, that's not for me. So it was interesting to take that what I discovered. I was like, oh, this is interesting, and it's also kind of bold that people are writing like this. And you look in the comments, people are enjoying it, realize that this is something that, as a given day, there's people who write, people who want to read that. And so I decided, why not? Let me try to see if I can write some stories of that nature. And also find that I also put poems in here, and some of these poems are part of all existing section. So it's, I guess it's connected in that way, that is already writing on the subject matter in poetry form. So so this was my introduction and experimenting whether or not I could on this genre, on this topic. And so far, since who have read it, I've been with what I in general sense you'd want anybody to do when they read your books.
Yes. That's good to know, because, like I said, Raw is the one that caught my attention, because this persona of being the owner of Passionate Words spun out of my writing of my own books, and all of my books are erotic. So I started as an erotic poet, coming out of being uh, coming out of the time where I was featured. As I said earlier, I got into writing poetry and focused solely on erotic poetry. And so for me, I I tell people my three favorite genres: erotica, fantasy, and sci-fi. Right? Erotica, my fantasy, and sci-fi. So anything you can link, and if you can link them somewhere in there, then all the better for me. You know. So when we met in the WhatsApp group, which is, for those who are listening, we are a part of Caribbean what is the name of that Caribbean authors village that is being set up here in online to have a in person, what's the word I'm looking for, conference, in person meeting later on in the year. So that's how we met, through going online. And so and getting to know, talking earlier about community, again, we got into this community, got into and started to liaise with other authors. So for me, I I took a deliberate step to separate the editor from the writer, just from the perspective of um not all, I get a lot of Christian clients. So, I didn't, I wanted them to be comfortable knowing that
Right.
their piece, their book, whatever, is gonna be given that the respect it is due
Yeah.
without feeling, because one of my first clients, she knew me as because I've been a spoken word artist for like 13 years now. And so she knew me from the church as a spoken word artist, as the erotic poet. So she came to me and said, "Do you know anyone who can edit my? I want to write a book. Do you know anybody who can edit it?" And I said, "I can do it." And then, and so her first reaction, she told me later, was to go home and pray about it, because she's like, this man, this man, I don't want his erotic imprint on my book and this kind of thing. And apparently, the story goes, she told me later that she came back to me after the book was done, and I mean, and she was happy with the work. She came back, she did it, she apologized, and I was like, "What are you apologizing for?" And then she told me this story that she had all these preconceived notions in her head. And it was, apparently, from what she told me, it was the Lord that told her, "You need to go and talk to this dude." And so, and apart, just like some of these people in the scriptures who argued with God, "No, you can't be serious." She had that same kind of, "No, you can't be serious." And God was like, "You better do it." And ultimately, when she spoke to me, I assured her, "Listen, you know me as an erotic poet, but when I get to what, I will treat your work with respect." And that is it.
Yes.
And so from there, I get a lot of Christian clients, and so I separate the two. I hardly ever even mention erotica on our page, although we do it as well. But yeah, and I like the idea of Through Her Eyes being uh today. I think this year, this month is Women's Month, I believe. We did have International Women's Day recently.
Yeah.
And so, the idea of having a, a a body of work that celebrates the strength of women is very apt around this time. So I definitely appreciate this. Like I said, I really am gonna I hardly ever read for pleasure anymore. Like, reading is work. Reading is work.
Yeah.
So when I put down when I finish, my brain can't think of anything else. I go and I just go mindlessly on TikTok for an hour, because I don't have to think. All I just have to do
Yes.
is just
Downtime. Yes.
scroll. I ain't gonna think no more. But I'm definitely gonna try to find some time and some money to invest and go look at these books, because I do, one, the idea of community and connection, and celebration of good writing, and two, again, it was, I saw the sample on on Amazon is so small. It literally is literally the first page. After I get everything, I see chapter one, master, then ready to start. Okay, that's it. You, did you enjoy? And then they have the audacity to ask me, "Did you enjoy the sample?" Like, I didn't even read it yet.
Oh, good.
I didn't even read it yet.
I'm sorry.
No, it's, I know how it is. I know it is the first it is the first, like, 3% or 1% or something, so of the that's that I have dealt with Amazon long enough. It's not your fault, but I'm like, that means now I have to go buy it. I mean,
Yeah.
not like I didn't want to buy it, but like, that's literally like that's
No, trust
li-
me, I understand.
that's literally like making me smell some nice doubles or something, and as soon as I'm ready to eat, no, none for you. That's exactly what that was.
It's really a sample. It just like pique your interest.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
enough.
it made me
Just enough.
it made me smell it. It made me smell it. I smell the food, but it won't let me taste it at all. Anyhow. But I because I also like I said the reason partly the other reason why I get into erotica myself as well is because I I also feel that um I tell women all the time, I'm a man and I cannot give you permission, but maybe I can give you space. I cannot give you permission to be in a safe space, or I can't give you permission. But maybe reading my work, maybe recognizing that although my work is erotic, you will feel not only aroused but empowered. I over my years, I've had audiences answering like I've literally heard women whispering to themselves in the audience, "Don't you feel? Don't you feel like good?" Not just I mean literally hearing people say this to me, well, saying it to each other, and I'm like, yes, I've achieved my objective. You know, yes,
Yes.
I mean it's erotic, so you get, and I am not the Mills and Bone type. Um, I am more Zen, right? So Mills and Boone and these early, some of these romantic um books, although they have a slight hint of erotica, they do this fade to black thing. You know what I mean? You start to kiss and then you fade to black. You don't know what's, you know, you
Yes.
it's inferred.
Yes.
It's inferred.
Yes.
I don't do none of that. Like you can hear
I
everything, you
don't know
can
none of
see
that.
everything,
Yes.
you can hear
Everything.
everything, you can see everything, you can smell everything. Yeah,
Yes.
because if it's one thing I like, not just about erotica, but writing in general for me is immersive,
Yes.
right? I want to,
Yes.
so I love imagery. I love imagery. I love um using the literary devices. Like for me, my favorite is a metaphor. My favorite is imagery, right? So I like to show you. I like you to be there, and and my characterization for me, a good character is human, and therefore I have to I have to feel the world through the character's senses. That's just how, you know what I mean? Like for me, I have to I can't read a piece of work and it literally it feels like a laundry list of this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this
Yeah.
happened. Like no, I give me flesh. Let me feel what's going on. Let me see what he sees. Let me hear what he's hearing. If he's feeling fear, let me see that he's afraid by having some sort of metaphor of, and not the cliche, you know, not dead as a doornail kind of not a dead as a doornail kind of metaphor or simile, but something that would grip me, you know? So I guess that's what I'm trying to get into. So that's what I guess like that's what I look for every time I write and every time I read. You know, that to me,
Mhm.
when I can get into when I can get into a book, once I can feel it, I'll tell you a secret. I got into writing my books because I read this one book by Natalie M. Catalano, and the scene was so hot that I was in a relationship at the time. I put down the book and reached for the woman because it was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, come. 'Cause
And
I
that's
got
what you want. That's what
and
you want.
yes,
That's what
that's
you
true.
want.
That's exactly what I tell my that's exactly what
Yes.
I tell my audience. Like when you my goal is to get you aroused. My goal is to, especially because I've been a spoken word artist for so long, I am on stage. I expect you to go home and find somebody to fool. If you don't have, look, I don't judge. I just want you to go and have a good time.
Yeah.
You know. So,
Yes.
but
And
I
another thing too,
mm, go ahead.
yeah, another thing I also focus on with this collection and with
Hmm.
the stories essentially is once again, I think it's something that I don't do on purpose, but it where again women are in the stories, which is also something that tend to be different from some of the stuff I've read before, where it's usually from the male perspective, or the man tends to pick up the big role. And I wanted to write something that was told either from the female perspective, made her center of the story, and also mainly also to let not just women but know that women have desires and they're not always in the box that we're expected to have. You know, these little laundry list of things that we're expected to like or dislike, you know. So, and that's what I wanted to, I experimented with, you know, that because I mean, I guess you could say polite company, you would never know that other women think like this, feel like this, whatever. But
right,
get a group of women together to talk the truth, and you would know what is the actual truth.
yeah,
You know, usually contrary to what is accepted norms and social norms and things like that. People feel some sense of shame in admitting to the things that they want, they desire, all these different things. So that was kind of like my focus on doing this. And I say it was actually very satisfying to do and explore. And I do believe that I will probably do another one.
Well, that's good. That's good. That's good because like, there needs to be a space. I totally agree with you. I believe very strongly there needs to be a space. There needs to be spaces, safe spaces. There needs to be a safe space for women, but there also needs to be one for men. I do agree that the sensitivity and vulnerability it takes to put your feelings out there, whether in poetry or prose form, you need to have it is you're putting your heart out there for people to see, even because you have to become, in one sense or another, you become part that each character is a part of you, right? I've had people when I've had people tell me about my novel, that they kept asking me, is this male character you? They kept asking, is this you? And I'm like, actually, no, it's not. Well, to be honest, yes, a little bit. But I always say yes, a little bit, but I don't treat women the way he treats women in this book. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, I have my one of my beta readers said to me, I hate your male character. And when she said that to me, I got hurt. I got offended. I was like, oh no. This is very, very early in my writing, like the first 2 or 3 chapters. And she's like, I hate this man. And I said, oh shoot. I thought that she was telling me that the writing was bad. And I thought, no, she was trying to tell me, no, you need to don't quit your day job, go and do something else. And she said, no, 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 don't, no, you misunderstand me. Your writing is impeccable. You have written of such a deep, a full character that I hate his guts. Right? Yes. She said to me, I want you. Sometime while we were getting into the story, she said, I want you to give him every STD there is on the planet at the same time. I was like, I can't do that. And she said, I want you to kill him. I am that. Anyhow.
Oh, no, but that's true. That's true. You know, even as I feel like that as well when I read something or even watch a series or a movie. When I am seeing something and a character can make me feel so like so full of emotion, and like this has been done so well that even outside of that character, if I see that person, I remember what you did.
Yes, yes. Did you watch? Case in point? Did you watch Game of Thrones? Are you a Game of Thrones fan? So you know who I
Yes.
ask him. You know who I gonna ask you about,
Oh
right?
God.
Joffrey or Jesus on bread, Sansa's husband, Bolton.
As in who I want to die?
Yeah, I mean, well, both of them obviously, but like, but those two, it might like those two characters, um, encapsulated
Yes.
those to the point, from what I've been told, that the actor who played Joffrey does not act anymore because everybody is so down on him. Like he's like, no, I doubt that. I doubt that. He played his he played
Universally
his so
hated.
well. Listen to me, universally. I mean, on sites, this little boy wanted to.
On
I don't on site for sure. Mhm. Nah. So
yeah.
yes,
And you
when
characters like that. You do. Yeah.
I mean, every time I think about it, it's like, but on the good side, no. On the good side, no. You have um people like Sir Patrick Stewart. For me, he is always going to be Jean-Luc Picard, no matter what he
Yes.
does, right?
Yes.
Um, so Ian,
Professor Xavier for me.
oh, yes, Professor Xavier even, and Magneto. Right, he also. All right, well, yeah, my internet is wanting to give me trouble, so we have to do this again. This needs to be we need to have a part two. Um, but
Yes.
what I will say for sure though is, um, so like finishing my thought at least, Sir Ian McKellen, always Magneto, always Gandalf.
Mhm. Yes.
Always, you know, and so,
Always.
so you have to have so writing characters that inspire people to see them as real people, right? Since my internet is going down, let me wrap up by asking you, since we're talking about characters, I want you to give okay, two things. One, give some advice to people listening who want to write, or who've been afraid of writing, but they have this story that they want to tell, and in terms of characterization. I'll leave that for the second interview. We can get into a whole conversation about characterization, but for sure,
Yeah.
encourage people, give them some encouragement about writing, and then tell people how they can find you.
Okay. I would always say what at least would just right. And I know it sounds kind of, but what I mean by that is what I do is sometimes sit and that comes in, just start writing out and find the medium that for you, because typing on some people, they have to pick up a pen and write on paper. So if there's some stuff that you want to write about, I have like thousands of random notebooks I carry around with me literally, and anything that I'd write 2 words, small blue bird, whatever, anything that speaks like and write a sentence right up, and then over you think that out of ideas, or be you're just sitting there watching the take out your notebook, and you see all the ideas that you have, and even if you pick out, okay, this one looks good, paragraph. Just do that. Don't tell yourself I'm going to write 1,500 words today. Don't stress yourself out like that, because sometimes that is a little bit too intimidating. If you can get one paragraph out, that's great, because the idea of you making that a habit over time is greater when you do things like that. I know friends who do the every day, no matter what, without fail, they write for a half hour to an hour. It does not matter what they write. They write. So they get into that habit. So some people just need to build a habit like that. And these little things help. And of course, going all the way back, read. Because like the more you read, the more ideas you get. Also, you realize things are written. So you may not, let's say, talking about the formal education, write dialogue, etc., things like that. In more ways that more books that you read, you realize the subject matter is like this, or this is how dialogue is, this is how a conversation is done, this, this is how people create a setting, things like that, and you can, so tips and stuff along the way and to build habits is always a good thing to off, and sooner or later get a little bit better at it and a little bit more conscious. But I'm not gonna say it right, but it's not gonna hit because it hits best of us.
Yes.
But yeah, at least you have some habits to back on. And to find me, you can actually go to my website and you'll get access to all the links to my books. And you can always contact me there as well for any kind of work, any editing, writing, all of that.
Yes.
I am omegafrancis.com, MEGARANCIS.com.
Right.
So you
right.
through and see even the articles that I've written for you today, as well. So.
Well, Omega, it's been amazing meeting you and amazing having this conversation. Thank you so much for being a part of our show. And definitely, so yes, omegafrancis.com, and I've already caught. I know I can be here for a little while trying to see if I can see a little bit more of this raw book, and I'll probably pull some more of the others. But definitely, as I said, thank you so much for being here, and we will see you later. If you want to be a part of our show, please make sure you subscribe, make sure you comment. And definitely, you also can reach out to us, Passionate Words Editing Services at gmail.com or info@passionatewordsediting.com. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, no YouTube. So we are here. You can definitely hit us up and definitely if you want to be on our show, if you have a book that you want to write and you need some help with, that's what we're here for, from concept to completion and beyond. See you next week.